Welcome back to the Numbers Game. I'm Jace. I'm here with Nick and Marty. And Nico, you're in the driver's seat today, mate. What is happening?
Well, Jace, as you know, there's a lot of people selling houses at the moment. We've done a lot of this stuff. We've covered a lot of this stuff on the podcast. Investors, just sick of properties and selling them. And it just got me thinking about a business called realestate.com and
Never heard of her.
the juggernaut that it is. And I'm wondering, is it too powerful? Because everyone uses realestate.com. Fees keep going up. Agents need to pay more to list people's properties. Vendors get past that, or sellers get past that cost. And really, we're pushing towards a monopoly. And I wanted to have a bit of a chat about the juggernaut and whether or not you guys think it's just too powerful and something needs to be done. Initial thoughts, Jace?
Yeah, look, I think, over the years you've heard about, the monopolies or the duopolies of like the Coles and Woolworth, that kind of thing. And you think realestate.com.au or REA Group. And realistically, it's them and then a country mile before you have any actual competitor that has any market share at all. So when you think about it, if they're in this position where they have such a huge market share and they can drive the price up and up and up, it is a bit of a worry. And you do wonder, when somebody steps in or when a competitor can actually get a competitive advantage and help, force them to drive their price down by losing some market share and making them react to it. But yeah, it's a bit of a worry.
Yeah, I think so. And look, to give you some numbers on that, you talked about the market share, but the monthly users on realestate.com is 12.1 million. Closest competitor, Domain, which a lot of people will recognise, is 5.4 million. So fairly big gap there. I know myself, I don't even have a Domain, or don't have the Domain app downloaded on my phone. And a lot of people I know don't. So yeah, what are your thoughts, Marty? Are you a realestate.com man or Domain?
Well, it's in one way I'm very impressed because I like monopolies, and then the unfortunate thing when I have to pay for that, I don't like it so much anymore. So a little bit hypocritical. But I used to look at Domain in regards to just property price search. They had a really good thing on their app where you could see the price of your property. But now realestate.com's got that, so I tend to fluctuate back to realestate.com because it's just easier and more functional for me. So it's interesting, isn't it?
It is. And look, what got me thinking about this is their 2025 annual report and the numbers that come out around profitability and growth and whatnot. And so realestate.com's or REA's report this year showed $1.7 billion in revenue, which is a 15% jump on the last year. Net profit of $564 million, which is a 23% jump on last year. There's a few other things in there, but they're the two big ones that we need to focus on. And look, from a personal point of view, I'm selling some investment properties myself, and this is another thing that got me thinking. Both properties I've sold to date are very similar in value, but have different postcodes. Not 100 kilometres apart, reasonably close to each other. Yeah. One property, the marketing cost, which is basically realestate.com, was $3,745. And the other property was $4,640. So that was to list on realestate.com. And most of the real estate agents will suggest that you do that. So a couple of points I want to make. First thing is, I think a lot of vendors, when they are selling their property, will be very surprised by that cost. The things they'll be thinking about is, okay, well, I've got to get some photos taken. A real estate agent's going to charge me anywhere from 1% to 2%, depending on the agent, the price bracket, and where the property is. And then I've got solicitor's fees. I would guess that a lot of people would be very surprised when the real estate agent says to them, oh no, hey, you've also got a marketing fee of anywhere between $4,000 to $6,000. Question back to the agent, what's that for? The answer, that's to list you on realestate.com. What I've also worked out on with realestate.com is you pay a price based on the postcode. So this is where the ACCC is starting to look at realestate.com and ask questions and say, well, is there a difference between you listing in a metro Melbourne or more expensive area versus somewhere in the far southeast? What is realestate.com doing different that justifies them paying a different price, or the vendor paying a different price? Now, if you ask me, it's the same. It goes onto the website, photos get lodged, and people click through it. I can't really see a difference. So it's these kind of practices that are making the ACCC have a look in and say, hey, we see you've got almost a monopoly here. Are you starting to price gouge just because you can? And then just one more thing. What this all comes back to is the power of realestate.com and their network effect. And that's what I wanted to go deeper on, particularly with you, Marty, given I know how your business mind works. But realestate.com are the beneficiaries of a network effect. So very similar to Facebook, which means the more people that use the app or the product means that more people that want it. So to put that into really simple terms, I'm a vendor. I need to list my property. Where am I going to go? I'm going to go where most of the buyers are. Most of the buyers are on realestate.com.au. So then most of the sellers, they go to realestate.com.au, which means if the buyers want to see all the properties, they also go to realestate.com.au, and you've just got this juggernaut that just continues to build based on network effect. Social media platforms, as I said, are very similar. So it made me think, well, number one, let's unpack realestate.com, and should that be looked into? And number two, are there any other businesses that people should be thinking about where they can almost create a network effect in their own way?
Yeah, I love that, Nick. I think, all credit to them. I still remember the early days of realestate.com where they were getting, listings on and advertising on dirt cheap in order to get that market traction in the very early days. And I always wondered how it would end up. And I guess the proof's in the pudding. They've got that compounding effect of growth, which is outstripping their nearest counterpart, being 40% of what they do on numbers. So incredible. But I guess, like you said, with great power comes great responsibility. And like you explained there, if it's certain suburbs is demanding more of a price because of the value of the property, like how is that being executed in regards to, somewhere maybe out east, or like what's the dynamics around that? What are the ratios in regards to costing and pricing? And is there transparency around that? Because at the end of the day, it's the consumer that needs to be protected as well. So it's all well and good to have a monopoly and someone doing really, really well, I think, because I'm business minded, but I still think it has to definitely come with a level of fairness across the board that everyone can trust when someone has that power. And I don't think that's always the case. There's probably a bit of cloak and mirrors going on to feed the trough a little bit further.
It's a really good point, and the thing that we haven't touched on yet is the fees to agents, and we've obviously got some close networks close people within that network that we work with, and real estate agents are disgruntled because they also pay monthly subscription fees to realestate.com. And there's rumours out there of fee hikes as much as 110%, and I guess that's probably where the real monopoly is, because these real estate agents are getting backed into a corner we have to use realestate.com.au or we can't provide the service that we need to our vendors or our clients. But how do you justify even a 50% jump to your client, which is a real estate agent, when your profitability comes out, it's a 23% jump. So if your profitability is going backwards, you could possibly justify that. But the reality is that's not what's happening. And these results are rea.com.au. We need to remember REA have other revenue streams outside of listing properties and real estate groups. But I would guess that they wouldn't need to be hiking the price by hypothetically 110% in any real market outside of we're doing that because we can.
Do you think, Nick, that agents are dropping their internal fees because of this cost? Because that would be counterintuitive to the real estate agent, like you're saying, in regards to utilising them. But there's just no other option. There's it really opens up the conversation of having a strong competitor come in being really, really aggressive, but they're just coming from such a long way back. Is it a road to nowhere too?
Yeah, possibly. And look, I think a lot of real estate agents really just competing against themselves to try and win properties as far as fees go. I wouldn't suggest that is impacting what they charge clients, but they're all, there's always one or two or however many in an area that are out there trying to undercut the others. But yeah, they're in a really difficult spot because as much as they would like to deviate and go another way, whether it's Domain or other competitors that are out there, there's another one called Homely. There are a couple of small ones. It's probably just too much of a risk, Marty, to deviate.
Makes you wonder what the domains and the homelies have to do to, try and get some of those more eyeballs on. Because, I mean, like everything, it's supply and demand. If you've got more than twice the eyeballs, why shouldn't you be able to charge up to twice the price? So there is that argument, the network effect, the power of the business they've built, the reach that REA has. When you compare it to other people and other prices, it kind of makes sense. Like I know the ACCC and the pricing watchdogs are going to come in and have a bit to say about it, but realistically, they've built a better business that commands a better price.
Yeah, and that's always the hard thing, isn't it? Because obviously ACCC will come and look at anti-competitive practices, and I think all of that is really important. But when it's a product that you pretty much have to use. So you would almost compare it to the supermarkets and food. You need to go and buy food. If you want to sell your property, and people need to sell their properties, sometimes not by choice, they have to use one of these platforms to make sure they get the result. So I don't know how much is enough, Jace, 525 million in profit, and profit jumps like that year on year when the property market really hasn't. It's not like the property market's tripled in the last 12 months. So I don't know. There's definitely a few questions. You just want things to be fair, I guess, and particularly in regards to real estate agents paying the fees to subscribe. If those rumours are true, even if they're not true, if that's 110% is the rumour, you've got to assume that there's increases out there of 50% as a minimum. I know we couldn't do that to our clients because I know what the backlash would be. And I know you probably wouldn't do that to your own clients either. So that to me is just purely we're doing this because we can, not because we have to.
Yeah, it's called definitely a competitive moat. There's no doubt about it. And I know I was talking to a guy going back probably 3 years ago, Shane Wallace. He has a company called WorkApp, and basically you can list stuff for free on the app, and you can do like job listings, all sorts of different things. Probably bigger in India than it is in Australia, strangely enough. But with that app, you can actually download your real estate listing. Agents can list directly on there. And it's, his whole concept was how do we promote property for vendors for free and put the photos up, just get your photo, but no volume, no traffic, so it's like, there's no point. There's like, no one knows what it is really. It's not focused and directionalized purely to property. So it's, in theory, you go, yeah, there are ways, but it almost takes everyone in the real estate, all real estate agencies and franchises to come together and create a better way and wholesale it themselves to get control of the pricing. But that's a whole different job in itself, and that takes you away from doing what you do best, which is selling property. So it's, no matter which way you look at it, I'm not sure, Nick. I'm not sure what the answer is on this one. It's going to take a big play by someone.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that because what has happened in more recent times is an American business, and the names escape me, but they have come in and purchased Domain. So Domain has got a big American player behind them now, which means more money to build and scale. So I would suggest that this particular American business is probably looking at the market here and thinking, hey, there's room, or there's an ability to have an impact there just based on the gap between REA and Domain at the moment.
CoStar bought Domain for $3 billion.
So that's,
or 17%
that's
share.
Positive.
Sorry.
That's positive. That'll just give them access to more capital, I guess, so they continue to do what they need to do. But I've been obviously in the finance and mainly home loan industry now for nearly 20 years, and you're constantly hearing this stuff from Domain. We're coming a couple of years ago, I think there was a big campaign about it, and they just can't make inroads. And look, maybe they have made inroads. I don't have the historic numbers as to what the gap of users is, but I don't know. It's coming from such a long way back, and the REA juggernaut just continues to roll on.
Sorry, I'm not 17%. They bought 100%. They started with 17% back in February, and now they've taken over the whole thing from about May 2025 onwards. They bought it off. I think Nine was the other main shareholder of Domain.
So a question for you lads. What would make you use Domain over realestate.com? What would need to happen from your own search experience and from your own usage that you go, actually, this may be a better option?
For me, and I haven't used the Domain app to be transparent, but it would have to, the client experience or the ability to, flick through properties would have to be seamless, which REA or realestate.com is. And I don't know if any of you guys have used Domain, but I'd struggle to think they haven't got that part sorted. I would have thought that's the easy part. But Marty, it's access to the properties. And if there's, particularly in this market where it's hard to find properties, there's not many listings. If 20 to 30% of the listings aren't there, then why would you go there? So the first thing I would say is they've just got to make sure that every property that's on realestate.com.au is on Domain. Otherwise, why would you have two? And then if you go back the other way, I'm not sure if, Domain has some that realestate.com don't, but it'd have to be one app where I could get access to all the properties. And obviously it'd have to be pretty easy to use the app.
Yeah, for me, Case and I are looking at some properties at the moment, and I haven't even kind of thought about where we go and how we do it. Usually it starts with a Google search. And unfortunately for Domain, Real Estate Group just seem to own the first page of Google. Like, they're better at SEO, they're better at their listings, and they're better at how things rank. So if you go to a Google search and go, real estate South Yarra or South Yarra apartment for sale, generally the first pages that come up are realestate.com.au, and bang, you click in and away you go. I haven't thought to download a particular app necessarily, like a Domain versus a real estate app. And then even property ads appearing on Instagram or Facebook. I mean, I'm not picky or choosy, but 9 out of 10 of them are linking straight to real estate's website rather than Domain. So that also obviously just means that's where the properties are. They own the market. It's the monopoly, as we talked about. And just not seeing a competitive reason or a reason why I need to go to Domain if I'm never being driven there.
So Marty, you've got the clever business mind. There needs to be a circuit breaker, right, for Domain to have an impact. What do you think they could do?
I think your first step of the match in regards to whatever's on realestate.com needs to be on Domain. So that needs to be worked out ASAP. And I would be thinking along the lines of a value add, like what could you give them, even if it's a loss leader initially, what could you give the market that actually is relevant that they will want to take up? Now, I don't know what that answer is. Is it a free valuation by listing on Domain? I don't know. That might be counterintuitive to the real estate agent, right? But I'm thinking there's got to be some level of service that actually the consumer goes, actually, this is very good. And they've got to drive numbers. They just have to drive numbers to the website to make it relevant, because while those numbers are at such a discrepancy, you're always going to go to realestate.com. And I was just sitting back listening to you talking and thinking about, what if there was only one bank in Australia? How terrible would that actually be, the power that bank would hold? And I just go, you look at the choice of, mortgage brokers as to what that brings to the table. I just think that they have to crack the code in a different way. If you can't compete with what realestate.com is doing, you've got to transcend it in some way. As to what that is, it's got to be market dictated by the consumer as to what's relevant to the consumer. That would be my starting point.
They need to find a way that the agents are confident that they can tell the vendors that it's the one to use, because that's what will drive the change, I think. And the agents need to be confident that they can get the right outcome for the vendor by using Domain. So how they do that, I don't know. But I thought it was interesting topic. And again, I said from a personal point of view, I was kind of surprised, and I'm in the industry at, oh, okay, hang on. No, there's 4,500 for marketing. So, I would think that most vendors probably wouldn't be aware of that until they go down the path, and would probably struggle to swallow that the cost is that much on top of the real estate agent's fee. So, yeah, Jace, that's about it for me. But we sit and we watch REA.com, and we will watch REA, which owns realestate.com. We'll watch the juggernaut. We probably should buy some shares in it. This is not financial advice.
You say that as I've got that on my screen. August 2022, so just doing a 3-year snapshot. August 2022, the share price was $130. August 2025, the share price is $260. So if you bought a couple of years ago, you've doubled your money over 3 years. Plus, I think the shares, the dividends, have been quite lucrative. I think they're up 31% this year versus last year on the dividend payout. So $2.48 per share. So again, not financial advice. Yes, Nico.
Let me tell you a real funny story to close it out. And I'm not going to mention names here. But realestate.com were quite smart when they launched, and they went around to a lot of real estate agents and said, hey, you should invest in our business.
Clever.
So at the time, there were, this is the story I had from an individual. I think they invested in the business at 50 cents a share, something like that. Don't ask me the year. This particular group, and there was a few of them, sold their shares at $1.50. And thought they were absolute geniuses. And so would I, to be completely honest, in hindsight. 3 times, that's a lot. You've turned 50 cents into $1.50 and you times that by however many shares they had. And then look at the share price now. What did you say it was?
$260 a share.
So these guys would be filthy rich. That's just the reality if they just had have held on. So it's a juggernaut. It's definitely one I'll be keeping an eye on as far as investing goes. No doubt Marty's going to do the same. Watch this space. We'll see what Domain can do now. They have have a big backer.
Until next time, check out REA, watch that space. Game over. This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. The conversations are of a general nature and do not qualify as financial or tax advice. We recommend before you make any financial decisions, you consult a licensed professional. Individuals on the podcast may hold positions in the companies discussed.